What are some of the major challenges that you personally have encountered in college to follow your faith? Whether it's temptation or whether it's something that just as a overall challenge where maybe you can't or you feel that you can't really speak about the Lord with your friends. So I just kind of want you both to share a little bit of that, of both of your struggles, if you have any, with your faith in college. So we'll again switch the order. Joe, go ahead, and then we'll go with Lucas.
Yeah, so that has been a big part of this past semester. So for the longest time, I've been kind of almost living a double life where I'm one person when I go out with guys, my teammates, whatever. I act a certain way, go out and party and do those things. It's like I'm one guy there and I act a certain way. And then when I'm in church and speaking to a priest or a Catholic family or Catholic friends, and I'm this other guy. Through confession and through prayer and other things, it's like I was conflicted because I wasn't the same person. I wasn't who I needed to be. And I wasn't the same guy in both situations. So over the course of the semester, through prayer, through experiences, I've started to find who I am, and I can be that same guy in both situations. When I go out with my buddies, I can be the same guy and be the Christian man I need to be in both situations, whether I'm in with the priests, Catholic families, my Catholic friends, and then when I'm also with my friends, bringing joy into those things into both situations, I guess. So that's kind of where my head went first. But yeah, for the longest time, it was like I was Catholic, but I didn't show it because I wanted to fit in. In college, it gets hard because when you hang around the groups you do, especially in today's world, it gets hard to live out your faith when trying to fit in. But I think God always calls us to be that light in the darkness and be that example. But it is hard to follow in that. And I think we've all experienced it, I'm sure, going through college and things. But the biggest blessing was being able to join those Bible studies, join those groups, and be like, okay, seeing people who are living out their faith, and it kind of gives you that motivation to take that next step and growing in faith, but also being able to share it with others. So since then, coming home, those buddies who I hang out with and I didn't really share faith with them, I've been starting to have those conversations, and we've been able to speak about faith and join it because they're Catholic as well, and kind of see where they're at and go out to other family members and speak about faith and have those conversations. And it's like, no, this is me. God's helped me find like who I am and who He wants me to be and to be His vessel and things like that. So yeah.
That's awesome. Awesome. Because I mean, I feel identified, but when I was in college and as an undergrad, I wasn't part of the Catholic Church. So I feel like I did fall into what you were saying about just living a double life, but mine was completely a double life because I did have my moments of prayer, but other than that, it was just doing exactly the same that my friends were doing. So the difference wasn't very noticeable. There's no example. I like that you share that because a lot of times that's kind of like the dilemma in which we find ourselves is whether where do I find the balance, or should I just not socialize, or how do I socialize? But I think that's pretty cool that you share that. So, Lucas, what are some of the struggles that you've seen in college and that now in the Netherlands, because he was studying in Colombia, now in the Netherlands. So I'm assuming there's some differences, but at the same time, it's kind of similar struggles. But maybe you can share more about that.
Yeah, I mean, I like the way you just put it, like that dilemma that starts coming up when you face all these challenges with following your faith and still like socializing. Because I think like sometimes I fell towards the other side of the trap. Like instead of following too much the way that my peers were going, sometimes I would just close myself off to my peers. So I think like the experience that Joseph just described is, yeah, I think it's very universal. I think you will always find people that make it harder to live out your faith when you hang around them. And I think that although sometimes I would fall into that trap, I would also sometimes fall into the trap of knowing that some people make it harder for me to live out my faith, and then just closing myself off to them and just like not interacting with them, because I think that's a trap as well, because it's not an act of love. And I think that it really like prevented me from sharing a lot of the gifts that God allows us and that God gives us. And I just don't think that that's a real solution to the problem. I think that the balance needs to be at a place where you can both like live out your faith and share it with the people, especially the people that need it the most. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, I think that's been kind of the challenge for me, because I think I've fallen more towards closing myself off to myself than towards following the crowd. But I think it's complicated. I think it's hard to be able to share that with other people, especially when the majority is always heading towards those things that are bad for us. And yeah, I mean, what you were mentioning, like the fact that I'm now studying in the Netherlands, and it makes it complicated because it's a very like non-faithful country, like generally. Obviously it's not good to generalize people as a whole, but I mean, it's harder to find a mass, it's harder to find people that are like looking for God, but you can always find them. That's the thing. Like yeah, I think that's kind of the main challenge, is to stay open to everybody, regardless of whether their views are contradicting to my own, but not fall into like their ways just because you're trying to open yourself up to them.
Yeah, I think I mean, both of you touched, I guess I've been in both of like the extremes where I've fallen to just kind of follow the crowd, and I'm like, oh, I'm not where are my values? Where are the things that I believe in? And also separating myself. When I graduated from college, I kind of did that. I was not more Lucas knows, because I kind of did that. I was like, okay, well, I'm not going out anymore. But there has to be a way where you can relate. I mean, drink a beer with someone where you're not going to fall into like just binge drinking and getting drunk, but also being able to be relatable, because that's one of the things we were talking yesterday with our friend. Last night we were talking here, the person that's hosting us, and we kind of went into these kind of deep conversations where you have to be able to relate to people that are maybe far away from the Lord. Not saying that we have to do everything that they do, but there has to be some type of common ground, so that, like Lucas was saying, so that we can also hear whatever they believe, whether we share it or not, and so that we can have some type of word, some type of, even just listening can sometimes be the key for someone to start following Christ. So you never know. But I think that's really cool to see both of the, I guess, dimensions of the dilemma of living faith in college.